war lasts a little longer because eggs are so good, right? Rice are good. That didn't set very good with one woman because she had 3 sons that were during in the heart of the war. I'm sorry I'm so disorganized. I can't even read my own writing with double spaced. During the war we had rationing, and that was different to most people. How many of you see an old movie and you see the lower right-hand side of the windshield in the car where it's got an A or a B or a C? That was gas rationing. That's how much gas you could buy because everything was limited. Farmers got away with a lot of things that people in town didn't because a lot of it was farm work. Everybody had ration stamps. You couldn't buy meat, sugar, what else? About 4 things you had to have stamps for, you didn't get it. Another one was, I was just a growing boy and I wanted a tank. I was born in 35 and I suppose it was about 43 or something. I wanted a tank for Santa Claus. I got a tank, but it was cardboard or like a cornflake box. You stamped it all out of cardboard and put it together. It was a disaster. That was a sign of wartime. Another one I was going to comment on, Bill Costigan, old man Costigan. I never figured out how that guy saved his nose. He always smoked a cigarette and it'd come up and about in his nose. You remember that? He'd be sitting in the tavern playing cards and that cigarette would just stick right out. What are the little ones I had? I got that one down. Into World War II. How many people look at the old bell sitting up there at the fire station? That was the old fire bell. Well, the day the war was over, they rang that bell steady for 2 days. All the wool was out. And they rang that thing. The first day they rang all day long. The second day, every little kid would come in and they started falling on the bell again. But it was a major thing in their lifetime. My broker, the guy that makes a broker, he was a TC graduate, that's Teachers College in Cedar Falls, which is UNI, but he graduated and his first job was in Parkersburg, Iowa. How many days of school do you think they had the year he started teaching in Parkersburg, Iowa? They had 1 day of school in February. Wind blew in the flat country and that's just the way it was. How about gas wars? Any of you young people familiar with gas wars? Waterloo, when I was growing up and in high school and everything, Waterloo would have gas when the board started. Gas was 10 cents a gallon. And we had a local farmer here who got a little smarter, went and got together a big tandem truck and an 18, 20-foot box on it, and he got 2,000 gallon tanks. All they had, be all right, but they give them 2,000 gallons of gas. Sure, it doesn't cost us, we get paid the same. He went down and got 2,000 gallons of gas, put it in the truck, headed home. There's gas tax too. He paid 10 cents a gallon for the gas. Gas tax was 14 cents. He got 14 cents back from the farmer used it in the field, It was all used for crops. And he got 14 cents back. So he got 4 cents a gallon to go down there and get 2,000 gallons of fuel. That's how gas wars work. What else we got here? Another one. We have trying to get on the computer. We never did figure it out. Joe Scally was supposed to be here, and him and I and all this guy by the name of I can't even think of his name. My Alzheimer's is bad. Woodruff. I never could remember his first name, but he was a draft man. Everybody that came 18 years old, you had to go register for the draft. And he had a big sheet and everybody's name on. Every month when there was a draft call, you got a number. It went up 1, 2, 3. When your number got to about 12 or 13, you were about ready to go to service. And of course, we'd go and check with him. He said, "You will be called in July." 2 of us went up and we said, "We're not going to be called in July. We're going to volunteer and go in January." But it was a lot easier. come anymore. Now with that, I better quit. I just get through. Oh, you try that.
Pardon me, I have one more thing that I forgot to say about Lawler. I mean, it was a business town. Who would go to New Hampton for groceries? Lawler had 3 full-time grocery stores, and they had deals going on every night or every Saturday night, big deals. There was a dentist, a full-time dentist in Lawler, a beauty shop on Main Street, several taverns, and of course, ladies didn't go where there was beer drinking and cards. That just wasn't done in those days. Think about that. How many times we've been in taverns in our lives, and my mother never could go in a tavern because that just wasn't done. So we had a lovely hardware store, a big lumber yard, Dick Kroll with welding. Look at the business he started. So Lawler was really 2 gas stations, and they would it was McCone's gas station and John Junko, and God bless John Junko, I believe he built this hall. And we thought, imagine a dance hall in Lawler, and every weekend would be a wedding dance from somebody, and we all got to go, and the mothers sat up in the balcony and watched their daughters and sons. Never could go to the basement because that was alcohol down there. Eventually I got to go down the basement. After I was married, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Others, if I can remember them. My first paying job, got actual money. I don't remember how much, but it was good money. It was my Uncle Tony Blasi up at Riley Ridge, coming Shacos. You know, he just put the hit on you and just come. Of course, I was a dumbass bohemian. I didn't win long with him. We went up there and they had about 100 acres of oats on the ground laying bar bundles and ready to go. But I went up there and I didn't have a shirt, I didn't have no shirt, you know, bare skin then, and I didn't have no glove. And it wasn't oats I was shocking, it was 60% thistle. That's what it felt like. I asked if I could tell one story about the lumberyard changed hands in Lawler and Hemesot, where the new owner running the place. They tell the story about they went to 2 of the boys there. Where are they? They were pretty small. A couple of them were just real small. And they went to church the first Sunday, and they asked Father about how he should approach this, and he said just to wherever there's a seat open. Well, they got there early, and they went in, and they sat down in the seat in the pew, and pretty soon here come the Brannon sisters. You're sitting in our pew. Another church story was a guy in the north end of town, the 2 Brannon sisters and Benny Brannon. He had a Model A 4-door, nice car, and he'd go to church about 40 minutes early. He'd park the first car by the steps going on the west side of the steps going up to the church. And he'd always be the first one up because he sat in the back pew of the church because he got there early. Well, one day the boys got him, never did hear who it was that got at him, but they put a bomb on his Model A Ford, and when you turn the switch, and the first time the spark hit this one cylinder, she started a loud whistle and the smoke come out of it, and then after about 4 seconds, it went boom. Billy was really mad. Because there's about 150 people that come out of the church, and we're all standing up there at the steps, you know, about 3 layers of steps, and they're all standing up there just talking and visiting, and you ruined their day. Johnny, you better take it.
Well, I'm kind of a new kid on the block. I've never done this before. But where I come from and where I live, that farm where I live on was homesteaded in 1856. My folks or grandparents in 1854 lived with the Lansings over by Little Turkey, and they lived there for them 2 years till they had enough so they could raise crops or food and build buildings. So the farm that I live on was homesteaded in 1854, and we have a deed signed by Abraham Lincoln. And we're an old family in this community, and my two sisters, Jeanette Kurtenbach and Joanne Winter, are here today, and my Aunt Margaret Blazik was my godmother, and the Blaziks and the Winters been related. So actually the Blaziks started at the Winter farm. So our family been a tight-knit family for years. And I can remember going to the Blaziks at Christmas and different times we got together. Same thing with my folks, always families getting together. But today you don't see that as much because the families are all spread all over. But I started out going to Catholic school here in Lawler in 1950. There was 20 students in our class, and of them 20 students, there was 13 farm-related kids. 7 students were from the town. 3 of them were girls, 4 of them were boys. And of them, Bill Sheridan was in my class, Tom McGreevy, and Mike Ernest, and Tom Leonard were the town children. And we had Mary Ann Brown and Geraldine Franzen, and Pat Scally was the girls. And of the 20 of us that were in that class, we started in this first grade, and some of the boys, we roughed it up a little bit, And I still remember in first grade, Dwayne Howe took a swing at me, and I took a slight swing at him, and my hand went through the lunch pail where we kept our lunch buckets. And I had a scar deep in my hand, and that sister knitted that together. We never used any stitches, and she held that together, and I wore a Band-Aid on that for a long time. And I can remember a lot of incidents in that school, and I was definitely scared of those nuns. When you looked at those nuns, and they had that habit on, and them black clothes, and that belt around that bottom, and that rosary bead with that crucifix hanging, you paid a little bit of attention because they were in charge. And today, that isn't there in the schools today. But those nuns taught us a lot of things about how to be adults and good citizens. And that's what it all comes from. And I wish we had more of that today. But I remember a lot of incidents. They had paper drives in school, and that bottom part of that old school where the lunchroom was full of paper. And they used to pick that up in trucks and haul that away. In the school that we were in was modern and everything, but it was rough and tough. And it was classes, there was 5 nuns, and we had a priest, Father DeLay, and Sister Lawrence. She was a tough cookie. Anyway, I can always remember her saying, "Now, children, that thing between your shoulder blades is not a hat rack. You use it." Anyway, and not a lot of incidents. I was kind of a spoiled brat. I was the youngest of 3, and I used to go to town with my dad. And Frank Eichhoff run the hardware store. Well, devil as I was, he used to have that swing and bend where the nails were, and I mixed the nails up. He'd grab me by the hand and he'd say, "Young man, we gotta go get an ice cream cone." So we go down to the ice cream spot on Main Street, east of the fire department, to get an ice cream cone. And another incidents, like my dad used to go in the bank, probably borrow money, pay notes off, farming, that's just the way it is. And Arnie Argo locked me in the safe, the backside, because he was tired of my shenanigans and screaming and hollering. I was back there with the tellers. Anyway, in Benny Nolte, the store, they used to sell all kinds of groceries, candy, this and that. And a root beer barrel, you'd get 2 for a penny. Imagine 2 pieces of a root beer barrel for a penny. And then, as time goes on, I rode the school bus when Lawler was Lawler High. Well, they had 8 of us rode in the school bus, and it wasn't a school bus, it was an old van where Merle Cuthbert drove, and there was the Helbers and the Ponishes and the Winterses and the Blustas and the Reisners. We were only 8 of us that rode that bus for 2 years. Well, Turkey Valley came along, and then we went to regular school buses. Well, Roger Crow was driving the bus one day over by the Reisner farm, and they had graded the road the year before. We met a milk truck. He stopped, but he was too far over, and the bus went over in the ditch, and Vernon Helber was on the top side, in the cushion and everything. I was on the bottom side, and I think there was only 3 or 4 of us, but we tipped her over on the side. That was the last time I ever rode a school bus. My dad bought a vehicle for me to drive because I did chores morning and night before I went to school. That's just part of the program. And, as time went along, and I seen a lot of changes, and I can still remember of those kids, that 13 that was in our class, there's only 4 of us left that went farming. When Bob Bating, Melvin Bach, Marvin Bach, and myself. And I've been at it for 61 years. Should give up, but it's something to do. We don't make a hell of a lot of money, but I still stay at it. And I'm glad I had those sisters for the religious education. And my mom took me to school, and my sisters, and back and forth. But as you think of what we have gone through and what they went through, we had it easy compared to them, because today it's a lot different out there. And I still can remember from 1950 as a child, north of Lawler, 4 mile wide, 5 miles long, there was 20-some homesteads that were building sites. They're all gone, grown by the bigger farmers that moved in. A lot of changes, and nothing saying, like it is, but there's so many less people, and our small towns really hurt because we don't have those people to support them. And I remember coming Saturday night to Lawler. The men went to the beer taverns, the women shopped, like Shirley said, and the kids were just brats. We all ran around, and they had drawings at 8 o'clock at the flagpole. They gave money away, and like Shirley said, there was deals that the women were buying. They didn't go to any other towns. They bought in Lawler. And I still remember the World War II veterans that served our country. Their names were on that flagpole on both sides. And that flagpole sat there right where the insurance office is and the post office, right in the middle of that street. And I had a lot of fun with being in Lawler, and from there on, after graduation in '62, I went to work at John Deere's because I helped a carpenter in the summer for $1 an hour, and that was no place to work. So I started down at John Deere's in '62, and I worked in the finishing end on paint lines and cleaning paint lines all over that plant. And I got married in '68 to my wife Sharon Kramer, and we had 2 children together. I proceeded on to farm, plus working in John Deere's and other jobs. And I just glad that I'm as healthy as I am and participated in this town, and we're very lucky to have the Historical Society to be able to put this all together and keep this going. And Riley Ridge went to that church till it closed, and I donated to Andrew Winter Window, and that is going to be in the Historical Society, which that church was the 2nd oldest church in the Archdiocese of Dubuque. And it's hard to believe how things have changed. I never really got any bigger in farming. At one time, I farmed 700 acres, and I live on a 300-acre farm. I'm very comfortable where I'm at, and my wife passed away in 2006, and that's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened in my life, because it's terrible to have one that, she knew what I was going to do before when I did it. And she'd always say to me, "God damn you, Don." Really, and we had a lot of fun together, but I really do truly miss her. And when I worked in John Deere's, like one of these people said, there was a gas war in the north end of town, and the gas was 9.9. And the only way you could get gas, you had to shove it through this little holder. There were so many bars on them windows, and either the person got shot or stabbed in that place about once a month. But it was rough going. And I had a 64 Chevelle and a 66 Chevelle when I worked in Deere's. And that 66 Chevelle had a 396 for the 4 on the floor. And one night, I wanted to see how long it would take to get from John Deere's, Waterloo, downtown, home. 31 minutes. And I was a little shit-ass. And I mean, truly a shit-ass. If there was any problems to be in, I was in trouble. So, thank you for letting me talk. I probably talked too long, but you know what? It only told the truth.
Get rebuttal on all this. Hey, to all you young people, Bill Cuthbert was a janitor at Mount Carmel School Church. He rang the bell at 6 in the morning, 12 noon, and 6 o'clock at night. He stoked 3 furnaces. The fuel was coal, and there was about a half a mile of sidewalk that he shoveled every day. And I don't remember what the pay was, but it was ridiculous. Another one was a girl that was supposed to come here and didn't show it, doesn't feel good. They were neighbors of ours before my time. That was back in 34. And my brother was just at the talkative age in church, and they sat behind us and she said, "Is your dad going to town today? My bicycle broke down."
I have one more thing to say. I thought when I was finished with nurses training and I passed state boards, I thought, okay, finally we're going to have some money, Okay, I applied at New Hampton Hospital for a job. I worked in OB, and I started at the sister said to me, "And guess what you're going to start at?" And I just had visions of maybe $5 or $4 an hour. She said, "I can start you at $1.34 an hour." Now, how about that? And honest to God, my first check that I brought home, I was married, and my husband said, "What are we going to do with all of this?" We found a place. Thank you.
I've always worked. I was a school teacher at Fort Dodge St. Edmund Catholic School for 10 years. I guess I'm used to standing up. I thought of a few things. One was, they were talking about how tough the nuns were. Well, we did a lot of things, town against the country. Would kind of laugh about that now. The nuns didn't want us doing that in our games. But one time we were having a snowball fight, and the nun caught us doing it, and she brought us in, and she had, of course, a ruler. She said, okay, it was all the guys. She said, "Put your hands out." And she said, "I saw you guys throwing snowballs, and anybody who was throwing it, I'm going to whack their hands." So they came to me, "Yes, sister, whack, whack, whack." Tom Reeve, "Yes, sister, whack, whack, whack." Tom Leonard, whack, whack, whack. Alan Knight, "No, sister." She said, "Alan, you were out there. I know you were throwing snowballs." "No, sister." "What were you doing then?" He said, "I was catching them." So he got out of it. The Murray brothers were always a big deal in town, and Cleet and Jody and Gene and Jim. Am I forgetting anybody? That was it? And they hauled horses and so forth. So my first job was at the gas station that my uncle Chet McCone owned up on the west side of town, where now there's a house there now, is Phillips 66. And so I was about 14 years old. I'd only been there for about a week, and I was used to their big trucks coming in, and Murray Brothers were our best customers. And so one day they came in without the trailer, and I think Cleet was driving that day. It was just this truck, and there was no truck behind it, nothing behind it, a wagon. And so Cleet said, well, I want you to grease the fifth wheel. So I said, okay, and I went in and I got this little handheld thing, and I was standing there like this, holding my grease gun. And he said, what are you waiting for? I said, where do I start counting? Because I knew there were two wheels in front, and two wheels here, two wheels here, I didn't know which one was the fifth wheel. I have one record at Turkey Valley. Oh, by the way, we're one proud thing. This is a side story. School started in our second year at Turkey Valley was 1962, and we weren't in a conference yet. We didn't know much about the game, but we had a bunch of big, tough farm kids and some town kids, and we ended up undefeated. We beat 3 conference champions that year and went undefeated, so that was a lot of fun. That was just a little side story. But in basketball, I have one record at Turkey Valley. Now, the coach lived at our house. After Dad died, we did anything we could for money. We rented our one room out in our house up here on Depot Street, right across from the Scallies. And the renter, when I was a senior, was Coach Ed Farnham. I thought, this is a great deal. The head coach, even though I wasn't very good at dribbling or shooting or anything basketball-wise, I was on the team. Maybe I would get to play. And so that turned out that didn't happen. So one night, there was just about 90 seconds left in the game, and I was sitting down at the end of the bench, and Farnham said, we're ahead of Elma, Malcolm's Conception, about 25 points. And I heard Farnham say, Sheridan, get up here. And I pretended I didn't hear him. And Joe said, Farnham's calling you. I said, no, just keep telling your joke. And then he called again, Sheridan, get up here. So now I'm kind of mad. And so I went with 90 seconds left. And in 90 seconds, I get 4 fouls. And by now my classmates are cheering.